Bostrom Ministries. Beginning January 2018, Bostrom Ministries engaged in a whole new assignment by entering the airwaves of the world. Don't miss Ken and Mary Bostrom Ministries Live.
Welcome back to United in His Purpose broadcast, where we have the mandate of reaching the lost, teaching the found, preaching the word, that we would all become united in His purpose. I want to give a shout out and a welcome to those that are partners in our broadcast ministry. And thank you for being a part of everything that we're doing to reach the lost, teach the found, preach the word. And it's going out into nations, so it's not just like my home little Bible study. We're going to the nations, and you're coming with us. God bless you. Amen. This is episode 8 of the Kings of the United Kingdom, and we have gone through the 3 kings of Judah, which is Rehoboam, Abijam, and Asa, and we've gone through 7 kings of the divided kingdom of Israel, which would be the 10 northern tribes: Jeroboam, Nadab, Baasha, Elah, Zimri, Omri, and we are at Ahab. We just finished Ahab in 7, actually 6 and 7. We did a lot on Ahab because it was so dramatic. You know, once we hit Ahab, we start seeing a parallel of the kings of Israel, to the presidents of the United States. We start seeing a paradigm. It's an amazing paradigm, parallel, and I get a lot of my information from the Lord, of course, but also Rabbi Kahn, Jonathan Kahn, has written an amazing book on the paradigm, and it starts with our nation leaving, taking God out of the marketplace and bringing in other gods. And so right now, we just finished with Ahab, who reigned 22 years, and now we're on Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat is Judah's 4th king. His name means Jehovah has judged, the Lord judges. It's a fitting name. He installed ethical judges and spread them throughout Judah. And we find that in 2 Chronicles 5:11 through 12. He became king of Judah in King Ahab's 4th year. So he was actually in power for a long time with King Ahab. And that's where we get into some problems when we're getting into this. King Asa actually reigned for 41 years and outlived 7 of the 10 northern presidents. And Asa was good. His father was good. And he was God-fearing, and Asa died of foot disease, and then King Jehoshaphat came into power. He was the son of Asa. And there was only 8 good kings, and he was the first. And second, Jehoshaphat, King Jehoshaphat, Asa's son, is going to be the second of 8 kings that were good kings. Not everything he did was good. He was 35 years old when he came into power, and he reigned for 25 years. So he was a good king. He was a good king. He sent teachers and priests throughout Judah. He tore down all the Canaanite places and destroyed the idols. He was a military king. We see him out fighting with the military. He actually reinforced the military. And he was a prophetic king. And I think I've got 2 Chronicles 20:20. 2 Chronicles 20:20 is an amazing let's see. Here we go. 2020. Remember last year, in the year 2020, the scripture that a lot of people had was from 2 Chronicles 20:20. And this is where it says, believe the prophets, believe the Lord and you will prosper, be established, believe the prophets and you will prosper. He was a military king, and what was happening was the Moabites and the Ammonites and some Moonites decided to attack them. And so Jehoshaphat was afraid. I'm going to read this. Jehoshaphat was afraid, so he sought the Eternal and required all Judah's citizens to fast. Everyone gathered together in Jerusalem and all cities and all over Judah to seek him from the Eternal. Jehoshaphat joined the assembly of the newly restored court at the Eternal's house and prayed before the people. And so he starts praying from, let's see, from verse 6 all the way down to 12. And then he said, our true God, will you not judge them? And so there was a prophet that came forth, a singer actually that was a prophet. Listen to me, all Judah citizens in Jerusalem and King Jehoshaphat. The Eternal has responded to your pleading. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful that they had a king that had the fear of the Lord, a reverential, holy fear of the Lord upon him? He learned that from his father Asa. And he said, Eternal has responded to your pleading. Do not fear or worry about this army. The battle is yours, not yours to fight. It is the true God's. Tomorrow you will travel through the ascent of Ziv. Meet them at the end of the valley, before the wilderness of Jeruel. And there I will be watching. Stand and watch. Do not fight the battle. There you will watch the Eternal save you, Judah and Jerusalem. Do not worry. Tomorrow face the army and trust the Eternal is with you. And so they trusted the Lord completely. When that word from God came forth through that Levite, they fell to their faces and they started worshiping the God completely. And so Jehoshaphat says, listen to me, Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem. Trust in the Eternal One, your true God, not in your own abilities, and you will be supported. Put your trust in His word that you heard through the prophets, and you will succeed. Now, this is 2021 that I'm recording this, and when you look, if you were following the pattern, 21 he says, having addressed the people, Jehoshaphat asked those who sang to the Eternal to lead the army and praise His significance and holiness. When you see some of these mighty moves of God with the worshipers right now going on, we're lining up exactly with 2021 in 2 Chronicles 2021. But 2022, if you want to see what's going to happen next year, as they sang and praised, the Eternal was ready to cause great confusion in the battle for the men of Ammon, Moab, and Mount Seir in Edom, who came to attack Judah. And they were utterly defeated, turning on one another. Turning on one another. That is, and you know what? They killed each other. Israel didn't have to fight at all. Wouldn't you love to have your president be a prophetic king? You know, when they trust the Lord, they start saying things that are the Lord, and they really don't realize that they're prophesying. But to have a prophet for a king, and he was a good king, and so you will prosper. Now, he was a naive king. This is his downfall. His main weakness was trusting others. He trusted Ahab. He started partnering with Ahab, the worst king ever in history. He aligned with Ahab militarily against Syria, and he joined with Ahaziah in shipbuilding. I want to read to you 2 Chronicles 19, 1 through 3, and everything I read is going to be from the Voice translation. It's the Bible the translation I'm using as I go through this teaching. Then Jehoshaphat returned safely to his house in Jerusalem. When he arrived, Jehu, the son of Hanani, and the seer whom Asa imprisoned for predicting his war against Judah, greeted the king. Jehu said, should you aid the wicked and align yourself with those who hate the Eternal? If you do, you will bring the wrath of the Eternal upon yourself. In spite of helping God's enemies, there are still some good in you. You did remove the Asherah idols from Judah and seek the true God. And so this is a warning that our president should have. And so, Father, I continue to ask you that you would speak through the leaders of our nation. Father, just use them, that they would not make covenants, that they would not bring aid to your enemies, Father. Those nations that hate you, those nations that hate Israel. And so here we have, after him, we're coming to, let me go back to Judah. I just want to make sure that I've had everything about him. He was a military king. Oh, that's it. And so, so now we're going to go on to the next slide. Sorry about that. I have so much paper up here. Do you know, this is a very confusing thing to teach, because when you start getting into the kings that have the same name, it's very confusing. So Israel's 8th king, now Jehoshaphat was, remember, he was Judah, the southern 2 tribes. Now the northern 10 tribes, their 8th king is Ahaziah. And his name means Jehovah holds, or Yahweh possesses. He became king in Jehoshaphat's 17th year. He was the son of Ahab and Jezebel. So you know what he learned in his household. He reigned 2 years, not very long. His dad reigned 22 years. In 1 Kings 22:52, Ahaziah committed evil in the Eternal's eyes. He walked in the wicked path of his father and his mother, and Jeroboam, Nebat's son, who caused the Israelites to live sinful lives. So every time it refers to a king of Israel that was the wicked path of Jeroboam, he's the one that started. He was the first king of the northern 10 tribes, and everybody that was really wicked followed his path, his way of doing and being right. And in 2 Kings 1:3-8, the king falls. And Elijah prophesies his death. So Elijah was prophesying, and he sent 2 companies. I wonder if I've got this. 2 Kings 17. This is just so good when you come into these things. So we're always going to be in 2 Kings or Chronicles. 2 Chronicles. 2 Kings 17a. And when we come to the first part of 2 Kings, you come immediately to Ahaziah. And I'm sure if somebody that knows Hebrew is listening to me, they're going to know that I absolutely don't understand all of these ways to say it. And so here we have the messenger sends messengers to a let's see. King Isaiah, he had the accident. He fell actually from, must have been a 2nd story. It must not have been very stable, because he fell through and he hurt himself very badly. So he sent a messenger to find out, am I going to come out of this? And the Eternal One's messenger, Elijah the Tishbite, intercepted the messenger. And he said, get up and intercept Ahaziah's messengers. When you meet them, ask them, why are you going to ask Baal-zebub, Ekron's god, about the king's healing? Do you carry the message because you believe Israel has no god of its own? That is the message of the Eternal to Isaiah. You have made your bed, and you will lie in it, and you will never leave your bed to your upper room, and will come to your grave. And so Elijah went on his way, and the messenger went back home because they already had the message. He's going to die. And so he gets to Ahaziah, and they ask the messenger, "Why are you back so soon?" And the Samaritan messenger said, "A strange man met us during our journey and said, 'Go back to the king with the message you carry and give him this message from the Eternal. Why are you going to ask Beelzebub, Ekron's god, about healing? Do you ask for this message because you believe Israel has no God of its own? You made your bed and you will lie in it. You'll never leave your bed in your upper room. It'll become your grave.'" And Ahaziah says, "Tell me about this strange man who met you and gave you the message. What was he like?" And the messenger said, "The man was hairy and wore a leather belt." You know, I've been watching The Chosen, and Simon, who was Peter, described John the Baptist as the creepy guy. He said, "The man was hairy and wore a leather belt." And Ahaziah said, "I know who this man is, Elijah the Tishbite." And then so he sent out a commander with 50 soldiers. And when they came to Elijah, Elijah called down the fire upon him, killed them all. So what did Isaiah do? He sent out another commander with another 50 men, and they came to Elijah. Elijah called down the fire, destroyed them all. So it's 102 of the military gone against one man. And so here, Isaiah is not learning anything. He sends out another commander with another 50 men, and that commander comes to Elijah and he bows down to him. He says, "Don't kill us. Don't kill us. We're just doing our job. We're just doing our job." And so, So Elijah actually goes to King Isaiah, "Because you did this, you will never leave your bed in your upper room. It will become your grave." And Ahaziah met his death as Elijah reported the message to the Eternal. And so this is the story. He met his death, just as Elijah. Let me tell you, when God has his prophets, the prophets are either to help the king or to warn the king. And he warned him of your death. You're going to die. And so here we come to the next, and this starts getting confusing. After Ahaziah died, king of Israel, then we come to Joram, who is also called Jehoram in different places. You're going to think it's two different people, but they're the same person. It just, in Chronicles it's one way, and in Kings it's a different way, because those books are written by different. And we're going to have a Jehoram, king of Israel, and a Jehoram, king of Judah, at the very same time. This is where it starts getting very confusing. And so we have Jehoram, Israel's 9th king. He was actually the brother of King Ahaziah. Both names are Jehovah is exalted. He was the son of Ahab and Jezebel. He reigned 12 years, became king in the 18th year of Jehoshaphat's reign. Now, Ahaziah actually had no children, King Ahaziah, and he reigned, let me find my chart. I have this chart that I follow because it's really confusing, and I got notes all over it. And Ahaziah only reigned 2 years. He had no children. And 2 Kings 1:17. So Ahaziah died according to the word of the Lord, which Elijah had spoken, because he had no son. Joram, who was Ahaziah's brother, both of them had the parents Ahab and Jezebel, became king of the palace the 2nd year of Joram's, the son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. Very confusing when you come to these. But let me tell you, God has some very interesting things. We have here in 2 Kings 3:2, the Eternal saw that he did wicked things, but not to the same degree his parents did. Well, that's a good thing. He tore down and had nothing to do with the pillar honoring Baal and that his father had crafted. But still he walked the wicked path of Jeroboam, the first king. Remember, if you're really bad, it'll put, they walked the wicked path of the first king of the 10 tribes, northern tribes. But still he walked the wicked path of Jeroboam, Nebat's son, and caused the Israelites to live sinful lives. He never repented from his wickedness. Wonder what would happen if he would have repented from his wickedness. During Jehoram's reign, Elijah was taken up in a whirlwind. And we find that in 2 Kings 2:2. So it was during the reign of this king that Elijah was taken up in a whirlwind. Jezebel was still in power. Now remember, the paradigm started with Ahab and Jezebel. So Jonathan Cahn, this is not taken from his book, but there's a transcript. When people are on Sid Roth's show, It's Supernatural, they always have a transcript of all the words that were spoken on that show. And so I got this from the transcript. Jonathan Cahn, in 2008, Hillary Clinton seeks to become the ruler of the land, but in the paradigm, the throne goes to a younger man. When he enters, you'll find this in the book, The Paradigm, in the chapter The Heir. Barack Obama will follow the paradigm of King Joram. King Joram will continue the policies of Ahab and Jezebel, and so Obama will continue the Clintons' policies. Hillary care becomes Obamacare, abortion, same-sex marriage, all that continues will be pressed. And so during the reign of Joram, Jezebel dwelled in the palace. During the reign of Barack Obama, when he came to the White House, he comes with the former First Lady as his Secretary of State. Before that, she had been a senator. That's the first time in American history a former First Lady stays in power. The first time in history of Israel's history that a First Lady stayed in power was Jezebel. Barack Obama was unknown until the speech he made at the Democratic Convention. His keynote speech launches his rise of power overnight. He spoke as if it was a potential president. When did that happen? It happened in 2004. That's the beginning of Obama's rise. He comes on the stage just like lightning. When did Obama's time on the national stage end? His last year as president was 2016. So from 2004 to 2016 is 12 years. 12 years of Barack Obama, like the ancient prototype of 2 Kings, King Joram reigned in Samaria for a period of 12 years. So here we see the paradigm continue. So here we're going to come to the next Judah's king, and his name also is Jehoram. So Judah's fifth king is Jehoram at the same time of Israel's King Jehoram. Both names mean Jehovah is exalted. He's the son of King Jehoshaphat. He was 32 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned for 8 years. 2 Kings 8:16, during the 5th year of the reign of Joram, Ahab's son of Israel, when Jehoshaphat was king of Judah, Jehoram, Jehoshaphat's son, became king of Judah's king. And so that's why they have to put son of. It's like Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, because there was a lot of Jesus during that time. Simon, there was a lot of Simon. So you have to have Simon Bar Jonah, Simon son of Jonah. And so there is a reason why they put the father's names behind it. You know, his father was King Asa, King Jehoshaphat, his grandfather was King Asa. Both of them were godly kings. But he walked in the kings of Israel, not like his father, not like his grandfather. In 2 Kings 18 through 19, he lived his life as if he were king of Israel, in the same wicked manner as Ahab's family. In fact, he married Ahab's daughter. So he brought that wickedness into his nation during his reign. And he committed countless deeds which the Eternal deemed wicked. But the Eternal refused to bring Judah to its end because he had made a promise to David, his loyal servant, that David's prodigy would always carry on his lamp of his presence. So he was from David's lineage, but he brought in Ahab's and Jezebel's lineage into his family line. Another thing he did is he murdered all of his brothers. In 2 Chronicles 21, 2 through 4, Jehoshaphat, king of the true Israel, had a number of sons in addition to Jehoram, and he names them. Jehoshaphat made each one wealthy governor of gold, silver, costly gifts over his own fortified cities of Judah, and appointed Joram the future king because he was the firstborn. Once Jehoram had taken over his father's kingdom, he had established himself. He killed all of his brothers and some rulers of Israel so that they would not challenge his right to rule. He killed all of his brothers. And we have, during this time, I don't know if I'm going to have enough time here, but here he died of a disease of his bowels. So Israel had a letter. Elijah sent a letter, and he said, I received this message from the Eternal One, true God of your ancestor David. You have not followed me as Jehoshaphat your father and as Asa your grandfather did during their reigns, but instead you followed the gods of the kings of Israel. You have caused the people of Judah and the citizens of Jerusalem to prostitute themselves spiritually as Ahab and his family did. You have murdered your brothers, your own family, and were better men than you. Because of your evil actions, the Eternal will severely punish your people, your children, your wives, and your possessions, and you will suffer from an intestinal disease until your bowels come out, ending your life. The last 2 years of his reign, he reigned 8 years, for the 7th and 8th year, he had a terrible disease, bowel disease in his body. And it said at the end of the 2 years, he died painfully 2 years later with a prolapse of his intestines. And actually his intestines were coming out all that time. What a horrible way to die. But you know what? God prophesied that this was going to happen. This should not have come to a surprise for anything. Because when God speaks to the prophet, believe the prophets and you'll prosper. You know what? Take a warning from them. Change your ways. And there's a lot of false prophets in this land right now. I call them the fake media, the news network. Anyway, there's a lot of false prophets. But when you have a word of God and you know it's God, believe it, and you'll prosper. Amen. God bless you.